Yakshamash. Yakshamash.
I'm trying to learn myself how to do this again from before, because we used to be real good at it, but now I'm learning.
Well, good. Glad you learned something.
Dziadzia?
Yeah.
That's Antoś.
A, jak tam?
Dobrze.
Wszystko w porządku?
Porozowane.
Porozwołane. Jak się masz?
Dobrze.
In the shaft alley when it come up?
Yeah, where was the... Right in the middle there?
Yeah. Yeah. In the middle, I was on the phone.
Same time, but she went
Yeah.
to go get ice.
And just on this side there, I had a stove right on the shaft. Everybody was just coming over. Hey Ted, how about this? Hey Ted, how about that? That was good.
You guys flew, right?
Oh, we gotta set up that can.
I just took the back.
Because you were working in the defense plant.
Yeah, they were working in a defense plant. They were getting deferments, and all of a sudden, because a few of us wanted to get a union started in the place, why all of a sudden we weren't needed anymore. So my deferments went out the window, even though I still had a mother.
You were supporting
So we were supporting, and I had
your little brothers?
2 brothers and a sister.
Mm-hmm.
But my deferments didn't last anymore.
You signed up for the union, but they just fired you.
No, they got the union into place.
They got the union, but they fired you.
They didn't fire me. They just said that I was not needed anymore, so I had to go to the service.
So you had to go to the service.
I had to go to the
So
service.
they got the union, but they got rid of you, the troublemaker.
Yeah, I was one of the troublemakers.
Okay, I see.
You didn't know that, did you?
That's the smart. That's a smart way for them to do it. But they got the union. What was it, UAW?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah,
that was
they got
about
it.
1940. What?
That was 1943.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, all of a sudden I'm become 1A.
Mm-hmm.
And come May, I happened to go in for a physical, and I passed. In fact, I was going to physical at the same time as Johnny Gray went. Johnny got her shit. Make it because he has flat feet.
He's your cousin?
Cousin.
Mm-hmm.
He had flat feet. He didn't go into service. I didn't have flat feet. I was physically fit, so they sent me in there. That's a story I must have told you before, but when I went in there and they said I was 1A, and he was a lieutenant. Don't recall what grade, junior, but anyway, he says, "Oh, what service do you want to go into?" Young man, I says, "I want to be in the Navy, but what's the use of me telling you I want to go to the Navy? You ain't going to put me in the Navy anyway. You put me in the Army. Where's the rest of them not going?" "Why do you want to go to the Navy?" He said, "Because I like the Navy." He says, "Okay, you're number 1 for morning." He says, "The quota is all filled up for the Navy men already, but I said, "See what I say? You say that you were going to have me go in the Navy and then tell me my quota is filled up." He says, "But it isn't tomorrow. You're number 1 tomorrow."
There you go.
So I went in.
Why were you preferring the Navy to the Army?
May the 5th, 1944, I was sworn into the Navy.
Here comes Caroline.
Went for basic training at Great Lakes Training Station, just north of Chicago. Where I got my physical, and we were stationed at Camp Porter. Company 1034. We were in there for 2 months and May, June, July, 2 months and 9 days.
So you're reading out of your diary. You kept a diary for the entire time you were in the Navy?
Well, you could say it
A
was
journal?
a diary.
A journal.
The only thing, it was a journal, more or less. It was not specific, whereas I'd elaborate on any of the days, but if there was any moves on my part, there was nothing much said about in reference to what I did any specific day. It's
Or
just
how
the
you felt.
changes that
Yeah.
were what had transpired. Like
Mhm.
if my tenure as in boot camp was all done with the
Mhm.
14th, or 2 months and 9 days after I got into the service.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got in a leave of absence. I was off for another 9 days,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I came home. And by this time, and within the 2 months that we moved from Campbell to Warrendale on Warwick.
Your mother, you
My
moved your
mother.
mother?
My mother.
Mm-hmm. And
My mother had bought this home before, and my sister Annie lived in that house. And when we moved in there, we moved upstairs, and Annie moved downstairs. It was in 74, 29 Warwick.
mm-hmm.
It was strange. All my friends were back in the old neighborhood, and they were about 6-7 miles away, and there was no automobile to be driving. I had to get on a streetcar or bus, I think streetcar at the time, to go back to the old neighborhood. Most of my time was spent riding the streetcar.
So why'd you move your mom out there? Or did you buy the house for her?
Ma bought the home.
Mhm.
Well, how could Ma have bought the home without... My mother paid the house off with $5 bills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think she didn't trust banks either.
Mm-hmm.
When she made the down payment on the house, it was with $5 bills. The guy was just looking at her and saying, what in the world, what's this woman doing with $5 bills, that many of them?
Yeah. Well, I'd be neglecting mentioning. Mama told me between the tapes that I had to mention that Tata quit school to support his little brothers, so, and sister.
But my mama said that. But my brothers and sisters were pretty well self-sufficient as well. My brother worked from the time that he was able to work.
Mm-hmm.
He worked.
Well, Leonard, right? Because Leonard was only a couple
Uncle
years
Leonard,
younger than you.
He worked as well all throughout his high school.
Mm-hmm.
He worked over at with John Zakursky as well. He worked there longer than I did, because I worked only a short while.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason I quit it because I cut the end of my thumb right off of slicing meat.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no more do I want to work in the meat market.
Mm-hmm.
But he worked there longer.
Okay. Well, let's get back a little bit to the Navy. So you said you came home, you moved, your mother and your brothers and sisters moved over to Warwick. That was after boot camp. Then you went back in.
Went back in. Went to OGU, outgoing unit.
Mm-hmm.
At the time when we were in the outgoing unit, now I'm going to have to refresh my memory with where we're going to go. At the time, in June the 23rd and 44, we were to the OGU, this outgoing unit, and we were shipped to the Great Lakes at Camp Bradford. From Great Lakes to Camp Bradford. It was in Virginia, just south of Portsmouth and Norfolk area. We went for liberties to Norfolk.
So how long were you in the States before you went to the Pacific?
Just a minute. We were there. We were there specifically to. We were assigned to be to the outfit to be a landing craft. At the time, the Navy was assigning the majority of the people for LSTs. These are landing crafts. We're anticipating the Navy to invade back into Europe. So they were training people to do this.
Mhm.
But when we got there, they were losing their priority of men. Why? I don't know. But they were evidently either. They said one of the reasons were that too much training is inadequate enough. So they were giving us additional training, and they took us from Camp Bradford to Portsmouth. That's just across the creek from Norfolk. And we had additional training there, and we were assigned to a USS Mona Island. Well, specifically at the time when they said Mona Island, my gosh, boy, we were all happy because we figured Mona Island usually is a big ship that would be maybe a carrier. But it didn't turn out to be a carrier. The Mona Island happened to be it was an island, all right. It was an island for all the sub-chasers and minesweepers. And we repaired them, which come back later. But at the time when we were there, we were being trained to be the people that would be running the ship. There were always a skeleton crew that had additional or had more training. There were some of the regular people, and handle the jobs and do additional training. And here, as I have a note here that Camp Bradford was a hellhole. It seems like all you have to do, you always stand in parade, you're always out in the hot, and you didn't dare rest because you're always standing at attention. And even one of the big tricks was they'd always have somebody in the back checking up on you. And if you were in the back, you're trying to rest, you'd stoop down, and somebody in the back would say, "Okay, man, run around the field." And that field was a long one. Boy, you had to keep running around that damn thing. You got yourself in physical shape. But it was a hellhole. We were glad to get out of it. Yeah. Okay. Now this was it was the amphibs. They took us out of it, and we figured it was aircraft carrier, as I noted over here. And I was shipped to Philadelphia for additional fighter training. I was a fireman. The fireman isn't the connotation of a fireman then wasn't the same as it is now. A fireman was a Navy man below deck. The seamen were above deck and the firemen were below deck. I was a fireman third class. When you went up, you got to be a first class. I never got beyond that part. So there was a time when I could have did it, but I didn't want it because at the time when it had happened, when it was offered to me, why the war was almost over with. I said, no way. The only thing it would do would be keep me longer in the Navy, and I didn't want any more part of it. I was not a Navy man. It repaired minesweepers, sub-chases, and any smaller machines that, smaller ships that were in the harbor. We were anchored in the harbor, and sometimes we looked like a mother hen with all these little ships around us. And we were the target of the Japanese kamikazes to try to knock us out or knock off a lot of little ships doing all their jobs. Matter of fact, May 1st, I had my notes that in 45, a ship about 90 yards away from us was hit by a kamikaze, and it was destined that they got it instead of us. We were told to make smoke in order to camouflage us. We kept making smoke, and we were told do not fire, but we didn't. But they saw this kamikaze coming at us, and they were just trying to draw a fire. When we didn't fire at them, why the terror did, and they just followed the tracer bullets right out to their ship, and they killed 100 people. And next day I went to see this, and it wasn't a pretty sight. And I don't even want to think about it. It so happened that it wasn't about a few months later. It was the bomb was at the drop, and we were just about 70 miles away from them when it did. We didn't know about it at the time, but it was, of course, afterwards we did find that out. And we were, in November, we were hit by not a kamikaze, but a storm, and we ended up in the middle of the Buckner Bay, and we had to be towed to Guam. After they took us off the reef, took us to Guam, and we repaired the ship, and then we were working on auxiliary steering all the way back to Hawaii and into the United States and back again. We went through Panama Canal going to the Pacific, and now we're going back to the Panama Canal going to frigid New York, Pier 92. How about that? Soon after that, as soon as I got off the ship, we were sent back to Chicago to get mustered out. Now, we got mustered out in January
46?
January 6th, 1946. Only 22 months, but many things had transpired at the time, all that time. I have a few notes here that I didn't continue on, but
Is there any time
in
you're...
46,
Yes?
yes?
I was going to ask if there was any time you're very fearful for your life during your time in the Navy, besides the kamikaze attack.
No, we weren't actually attacked, or our ship was never hit. There was some guy got a Purple Heart, maybe because of, I don't know, he got hurt one way or the other. He got a Purple Heart because of it. But I don't even know if it was by enemy fire. It could have been other than that. But the most spectacular part of it is when the war was over with, you would think that 4th of July was something, fireworks here is great. You never saw so much tracer bullets being fired. But at that time, shut it off. On August the 10th, according to my notes, that's when we got notification, not confirmed by Washington, that the war was over with. And through the celebration, it may be funny for some people, but not for the 6 people and 20 of them that got hurt in the celebration.
What happened?
They got killed, and all the guns were just firing in celebration. Well, the errant bullets went and killed people.
So all the ships just opened fire?
Open fire every which way, shooting up in the air. Of course, they weren't shooting at anybody, but shooting up. And what goes up must come down.
And 6 people were killed.
And 6 people were killed. Some pretty big shots were going up there too. But our captain, the newly commander, sent us all below deck with a general quarters, and none of our men were hurt.
Smart man.
Soon after that, though, we got into a storm, and we ran away from the storm a couple of times, but eventually it got us, and we ended up in the middle of Buckler Bay, and we monkeyed up our shaft, our rudder, and our propeller, and we had to get towed to Guam to get it repaired. And from there on out, we moved into auxiliary engines and all the way to Hawaii and back into San Diego, and then back around Panama, back to. It's strange coming from going through Panama to beautiful weather, nice sunny, people swimming in Gatun Bay, and going up through the Panama, going up to going past Cape Hatteras, and the further we got, the worse it got. When we got to New York in December.
So you ended up in New York City.
December to Pier 92.
In the winter. From the Pacific.
We saw the changing of the difference in weather from Panama to New York in a short, about 2 weeks.
So you got out at that time. How'd you feel?
Got out at that time where we had spent a weekend in New York, and then we went to Chicago to get mustered out. From there we got to Detroit by train, and it was a happy moment. I don't recall who met me there. Anyway, it was a momentous occasion. When I got out of the ship, my last notes was, "I'm going home." What had happened after that, I don't know. All I know is we got home.
Safe and sound?
Safe and sound. I guess the closest we ever got to being shot at and killed is during that time when the terror got hit in May the 1st.